students, good day. I am Miss Gift, your favorite PhD teacher. I want to believe we've been doing very well and we've been studying despite the fact that we are not going to school. Okay, for our class today, we want to consider sports injury. At the end of our class today, we should be able to define injury. We should also be able to identify some common sports injury. And then finally, we should be able to manage some of the common sports injury. Okay, we are going to start off immediately by defining what injury is. Now, an injury is a damage to any part of the body which leads to bleeding either internally or externally. Okay, we are also going to consider some of the causes of injury in sports. Okay, one of the major causes of injuries in sports is lack of attention, lack of paying attention rather. Lack of paying attention and of following instructions. Another cause of sports injury is faulty machines. Faulty machines. Another major cause of sports injury is the use of inappropriate sports wears. Okay, basically these are some of the causes of injuries in sports. We are also going to consider common sports injuries. In sports, injuries are bound to occur, injuries are bound to happen, and that is why one must be very careful when engaging in any of these sports, in any of the sports we have decided to go into. Some of the common sports injuries we have include: one, we have wounds. have sprains, we have fractures, we have dislocations, we also have muscle pull. We also have muscle pull. Still under common sports injuries. We have drowning. We also have heat stroke. I think we are going to stop here for today, for now. Now quickly let us consider one of the common sports injury. We are going to consider wounds. Okay, quickly, what is wound? A wound is usually a break in the continuity of the skin. Oftentimes, it is as a result of a tear or a cut. That is what a wound is. Okay, basically that's that. A wound is a break in continuity of the skin, and I have just explained that it is usually when the skin is divided, either as a result of a cut or a tear. Still under wound, there are basically different types of wounds. We have about 5 types of wounds. Types of wound. We have the one that is called incised wound. We also have another that is called the contused wound. We also have the lacerated wound. We have the punctured wound. And then finally, we have abrasion. These are basically the 5 major types of wounds that we have. Quickly, I am going to explain to us this type of wound, and then we'll call it a day. The incised wound. For the incised wound, this is usually as a result of a cut. When you have a cut on your skin, and this cut is usually as a result of the use of a very sharp-edged object. For example, when you use a knife to cut an opening on the skin, or a razor blade, that kind of wound is called an incised wound. The use of sharp objects to cause an opening in the skin, that is called the incised wound. And then we also have the contused wound. For the contused wound, this is usually as a result of a blow from a blunt object. When you have a blow from a blunt object, for example, the use of an hammer on the skin can result to a type of wound that is called a contused wound. Oftentimes for the contused wound, you don't usually get to see the bleeding. It is usually an internal bleeding that occurs when it has to do with the contused wound. And of course, it could result to swelling. It could result to swelling on that particular area of the body. And then we have the lacerated wound. For the lacerated wound, this is usually caused as a result of when the skin is rubbed against a barbed wire or the claws of animals. Oftentimes, this kind of wound is usually very rough. It is not always smooth. That's for the lacerated wound, where you have a scratch, a kind of a scratch on your skin. And then we also have the punctured wound. For the punctured wound, this is usually as a result of a very sharp pointed object when it causes a deep hole into the tissues of your body. It is called a punctured wound. Example of instruments that could result to or that could cause punctured wound include nails or pins or needles. All these objects could result to what is referred to as a punctured wound, because oftentimes when it gets into your skin, it causes a deep hole. And then finally, on the types of wound, we have abrasion. For abrasion, this is usually as a result of the skin being rubbed against a very hard surface. When the skin is rubbed against a very hard surface, you observe that that part of the skin will be removed. That part of the skin will be removed. That kind of wound is called abrasion. Okay, quickly, we are going to consider some of the first aid procedures to manage these common sports injuries. Okay, first of all, one of the very first steps to consider is that you get a very clean cotton wool and clean the surface of the skin. Get a very clean cotton wool and then clean the surface of the skin. Another step to consider is you apply antiseptic. You apply antiseptic to the wound. You know what an antiseptic is. And then another step to follow is that you should be able to arrest the bleeding. How do you arrest the bleeding? All you have to do is simply apply pressure on that area that is being injured. You apply a little pressure and then the bleeding will cease. In a case where you have a swollen, as it has to do with the contused wound, then you have to apply, use an ice block. Use an ice block on that part that is swollen. Finally, if the case is beyond your control, you are advised to seek for medical attention. Once you observe that you are unable to manage the case by yourself, you are advised to quickly get the attention of a medical doctor or a medical practitioner who will take it up from there. I want to believe that you have been able to learn something for our class today. I want to also believe that you should be able to define what injury is. You should be able to identify some of the common sports injuries, and you should be able to manage some of these common sports injuries as we have already discussed in class. If you have any question for me, you can just forward it as a message, and then in our next class I will get back to you. Thank you and God bless you.